Folks, welcome into sportsbookreview.com. We are ready to get after it. Week 8 NFL action. I'm Donnie Rightside. He is Kyle Purviance, and we are getting ready to kick some butt here on Sunday NFL action. But also, we got a game tonight down in Carolina that should be a good one. Point spread, total, rain, wind. We got it all right here on our NFL show. Kyle, welcome in. Let's have some fun. Week 8. We got the Tuesday show out of the way. Thursday show, pencils sharpened. Let's get after it.
Yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll, man. I've been spending the whole week doing my best Willard Scott impression, from the old Today Show days. Yeah, that shows how old we are. That's too old. Yeah, I should say Al Roker or something, probably, right? I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to say there, but weather's going to be a factor this weekend, and it's a little unnerving to watch. I do think there's some edges there. I typically don't jump on that stuff earlier in the week, but scared money doesn't make money. I'm excited for Week 8. We're getting into the holiday season, so maybe I'm in the giving mood and giving back to the books this week. Who knows? But we've had a nice run of it lately, and I think Week 8 is going to be a lot of fun. Games are going to be interesting, and I'm excited for tonight's game, too. Finally, it should just be a little bit of fun, even though Atlanta stinks. Carolina's not too bad, and should be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah, taking a look at the point spread that's now down to 1 at most places. We'll get into that in just a few moments, but I got to tell you guys, thank you so much for watching with us on a Thursday, spending your time talking some NFL football. 72,400 people have hit the subscribe button here on our YouTube channel. If you haven't done so yet, please do that, and also click on the notification button. So when Kyle and I talk a little bit of NFL action right here on sportsbookreview.com, you'll be able to come into the chat box and say hello. Edwin, Steven, Critical, Akbar, Ganja, Thunder, Sean, welcome to the show. Let's get started. Again, it's an action-packed show, 1 hour. We got to hit every game on the card. Then we'll bring in Kelsey Kramer, talk a little bit of our Pick 6 contest, and see how we can shape up and possibly win some of that free cash right here at sportsbookreview.com. Tonight's game, 101, 102 on the rotation. The Atlanta Falcons travel not a long distance there up to Charlotte to take on their division foes, the Carolina Panthers. If we take a look at SBRodds.com, about 6 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on the home team, the Carolina Panthers. But how about this? Line opens up offshore at -3. Now we're getting -1s across the board, some 1.5s. So depending on where you're shopping at to get the best line, I'm actually surprised that's taking place. But then again, Atlanta has rose up from the dead in their past 2 football games. They're going to be active and ready. And we got some rain in the forecast. Should be an interesting game. But I got to tell you, I always make the case, and the listeners know me, the chat box knows me. I try to make a case for the home team or no team. But I got an interesting angle in this game that I'm going to play here, Kyle. What are you looking at for this game between the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers tonight?
Well, first thing that jumps off the screen is, again, I'm keeping an eye on that weather. We got that hurricane going on, and it's sort of moving through. And, of course, to all of our friends out there, in the South being affected by that, hope you're all happy and safe and out of the elements there. But, we saw these 2 teams play a couple weeks ago in the Dome, and they could only muster up 39 combined points. You look at this Carolina team, they play a ton of zone. That cover 3 zone is what they, that's what they rest their laurels on defense. So I don't know how many big explosive plays you see from Atlanta unless they can break a couple tackles and get that run after catch. I think they're a highly motivated team. They've got to be it feels like week after week we're talking about another embarrassing, shocking, weird way that the Falcons lose. So I do think they'll be highly motivated. I do think there's an angle to success for them on the ground. I think Todd Gurley bounces back and should be pretty motivated today. I went the under on this game. I think 52 is too high. I don't think they get there, and especially if the weather plays a factor, which hopefully it does. Again, I'm not a damn meteorologist. I don't know a damn thing about the weather. I just try to follow the reports, but I think the 52 is high. If I'm leaning aside, I get it. I think people are saying to themselves, Atlanta has got to be super motivated after what happened last week, and maybe they are. I do think they look better the last couple of weeks. Of course, that game in Minnesota, and then last week they should have won that football game against Detroit. I like home teams on Thursday Night Football. I'm a little bit nervous to take Carolina as a favorite in any scenario. I like them so much better as a dog getting points, but I'm leaning the under, I think, is the safe bet for tonight's game.
Yeah, I could see that because we're going to get some rain to start the game, heavy rain. But again, it is an NFL field. It's tarped all day. So if it rained 22 inches, it doesn't matter. It only matters what comes down during the game. But we all know they have the best drainage systems possible. There's probably going to be a clean slate tonight, just a matter of how hard it rains. Wind doesn't look like it's really going to be a factor, about 10 miles an hour to start the game, picking up a little bit later in the game. But we're not talking the ones that you want to get, the flags out for is 20 miles an hour over, because then it affects the passing game, the kicking game, and really affects what you want want to do. So if you're going to go into the wind, you might have to punt the ball from the 38-yard line when you might go for to kick a field goal on the opposite end. So you play a little bit of, Russian roulette in that capacity. But when we're taking a look here to try to go over what we really like in this game, you know me, and you're the same way. Like, I like to take NFL teams at home on Thursday night because of the travel. You get to stay home. And I do think the Carolina Panthers are a decent football team, great head coach. But I'm actually going to take the Atlanta Falcons in the first half tonight +1, not because I like Atlanta to win the football game, but I do think if you're going to get some rain in the forecast, going to be tough to take a lead on either side. And what's the one thing we know about the Falcons? They play well typically over the first 3 quarters and stink in the fourth. It's like betting a baseball team with a horrible bullpen. Good starting pitch in the Atlanta Falcons. Terrible bullpen. Give me the Atlanta Falcons in the first half +1 in this game. We'll go over a couple prop bets a little bit later as we circle back after we do our Pick 6 contest and take some prop bets. But looking at this game tonight, I think it's going to be close, hard fought. I think Carolina does win this game, but I like the fact I'm getting better than a coin flip in the first half with some rainy conditions. Give me the Atlanta Falcons, Kyle, +1 in the first half tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Atlanta, if they have a lead, it's going to be early, and then they blow it late. They've shown they can come out and get off to a hot start. So I think that's a great call on that. If the weather does clear up and it's not a factor, that certainly will favor the passing game of Carolina. Obviously, the Atlanta Falcons can't cover anybody. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel on third down. They've really got that passing attack going. Of course, the big story of the day, everyone thought maybe we'd get Christian McCaffrey back for tonight. He won't be there. Mike Davis went off, especially in the short passing game for Carolina in that Week 5 game. I think he had 30 fantasy points in that outing, which was nice for my fantasy football team. So, it's Carolina's passing game against Atlanta's running game. Carolina, very good against the pass. We talked about that cover 3 zone, that bend, don't break sort of style there in the secondary, but they are susceptible to the run. So, you could see some sleeper guys like Brian Hill on a short week be effective. I think the Falcons, not big explosive plays, but I do like the call getting out to the lead early. I think Carolina's the better team. I would lean the Carolina side overall. And once again, I like the under. This feels like a 27-14, 27-20 type football game going under that 52, 51.5 you're seeing in a couple spots.
Yeah, Atlanta's been really good on defense the past couple weeks, specifically on the ground, only giving up 64 yards to Detroit. And the week before that, only 32 yards to Minnesota. Now, when you look at their inflated passing numbers, it's 5 straight games that I'm looking at right now. They gave up over 300 yards. But I give them a win. Look, if you bet the game, you lost. In the standings, Atlanta lost, but they won that football game. If you saw the clips coming out where Matt Ryan was mic'd up in the huddle, telling Todd Gurley to his face, we're handing you the football. Get the first down, hit the deck, we got to win. And Gurley runs it in for a touchdown. Just amazing that this happens to professional athletes, but that also affects statistics because the last drive that Detroit got the ball, let's just say on the 25-yard line, I'm pretty sure they didn't run the football in their last drive with limited time. So that's 75 yards. So last week they probably only should have maybe 270 yards that they'd given up in the passing game, along with 64 on the ground. That's an elite effort. And the week before, he said, well, Donnie, Minnesota threw for 333. They were up like 4 touchdowns in that game. And if you remember, the tack-on touchdowns at the end of the game by Minnesota drove that up. Atlanta's been really good on defense the past 2 weeks. We'll see if it enters tonight into the rain. And that's why I like your pick on the under, because I think you're getting a lot of smoke and mirrors going, well, everybody's going to torch Atlanta's defense. Since the change to Raheem Morris at head coach, they're obviously playing much, much harder on defense. And those numbers on the passing game are skewed the past 2 weeks. I like your under 51. I like Atlanta in the first half here to try to keep it close and pick up that cash. But again, we'll come back to this game later. I got some good prop bets in that game so we can factor in and have some fun with. Let's get the Sunday's NFL action here, Kyle. Indianapolis, Detroit, 251, 252 on the rotation. 50-50 ticket split here. Not much movement here on the actual line. Indianapolis coming off of a bye week, rested and ready for this game. As we saw Detroit, cardiac kids last week, picking up a victory. Now they come home. 2.5s across the board with some juice. Some 3s starting to show up here in New Jersey. DraftKings -3, BetRivers PA -3. If we look at the over-under coming down a little bit, and this is one of the games that we're going to talk about, Kyle. No weather conditions. Why? Because it's in a dome. A lot of interesting weather conditions throughout this card. But looking at this early, what to make of Detroit? Because they're healthy on offense. They can move the football. They're getting healthier on defense. But are we going to fall into that trap as same old Detroit Lions? And also, I love Frank Reich, one of my top 5 coaches in the NFL. They're rested and ready. Do we get Darius Leonard back at middle linebacker this week? That'll be a big improvement. But also keep in mind, Kyle and I talk about this all the time. When you have those dead arm older quarterbacks, quarterbacks, where do you like them? No wind conditions in a dome. Phillip Rivers, again, will have that this weekend after putting up a pretty good effort against the Cincinnati Bengals before the bye. I got to say, like, we're not early in the week anymore, but if it's under a field goal, I trust Indianapolis to win this football game more than I do the Detroit Lions. Because, again, last week, Detroit should have lost to the Atlanta Falcons, and we'd be all ripping them this week.
Exactly. And I went back. I've rewatched Detroit's games 3 times this week because no team has frustrated me more than the Detroit Lions, especially when they get in the red zone. I'm so tired of them running 7 times in the red zone and never going up to their big receivers, Jones and Galladay. Once in a while they go to Hawkinson. But the offense is pretty anemic. They get bailed out by these long throws to Kenny Galladay where he makes these all-world catches. He's twisting and turning and dragging his toes. I think that offense stinks. And when you go to the other side of the ball, the Colts offense, not much better. Phillip Rivers did sort of have a resurgence in that game before the bye where he brought them back against the Bengals and threw for 370 yards in a performance that he needed to have possibly to keep his job. So you look at 2 offenses, they're meh, they're okay. These aren't great offenses, they're just okay. Then you look at the defensive side of the ball, and the Detroit Lions are absolutely terrible on the defensive side of the ball. They can't cover anybody, they can't stop the run. You look at the Indianapolis Colts, they might have a couple of injuries, but they still have Xavier Rhodes, who's going to make life difficult for Kenny Galladay. Say what you will about Xavier Rhodes last year, but this year he has been much, much better in that secondary. I think the Colts defense is the difference in this game. And like you said, if it's under a field goal, I just think the Indianapolis Colts are the more well-rounded team. They're certainly the better coach team. Matt Patricia is one of the most frustrating coaches in the league to watch. He's right there with Mike. He's starting to climb into Mike McCarthy territory for me. I just don't see the football IQ with Matt Patricia. I think the Colts are the better football team. Under a field goal or at a field goal there, I like the Colts.
Yeah, I'm trying to take a look at this game also because from a health perspective, it's always nice to get a team coming off a bye, rested and ready. Frank Reich's been working 2 weeks on the Detroit game plan, so they're going to be sound coming in with a great offensive line. And you like to have your star of your defense back, which he's missed the past couple weeks in Darius Leonard, getting a limited practice in yesterday. Haven't seen the full report back today, but I assume he'll probably be limited all week and probably give it a go on Sunday, which looks like the case. But I got to tell you, from a Detroit perspective here, Kyle, they're a really healthy football team coming into this game. All weapons are go on offense and defense and playing better and sort of get that little bump. But we'll see what type of pace we have in this game, because the one thing we do know is Indianapolis isn't really, hey, let's hurry up and chuck the ball deep. But if they need to do that, once they got down a couple touchdowns to Cincinnati, they can. But not every defense is Cincinnati, but I still like that coaching staff, Kyle. I'm still going to roll with the Indianapolis Colts in this game. How about an over-under in this one? 50 seems about right because, again, if you push Indianapolis like you saw last week or 2 weeks ago where the Bengals were scoring, Phillip Rivers wakes up, hey, I got to start throwing the football around, 300-plus yards, score over 30 points. I sort of think this game does play to an over, but I don't have a great feel for that 50.
It's tough. It's hard. You kind of want, if you're going over the 50 and this game's sitting at 45 late in the game, you want the Lions to have the football, not the Colts. It feels like Phillip Rivers' entire career, if he's down by 5, he's got, 14 seconds, 92 yards to go and no timeouts. He's not doing anything. Matthew Stafford has proven he can move the ball at the end of the game. I mean, we just saw it last week. So you're kind of hoping for the Colts, for the Lions to push them, the Colts to be ahead, and then the Lions to have to throw the ball a little bit more in that second half, force the ball out there to Galladay, etc. That 50 number, I think you're right. It looks just about right. I'm probably staying away from that total. I like the Colts minus 2.5 a whole lot better than I like going over that 50. And I don't like going under the 50 either. It's one of the few games this weekend where you don't have to worry about the weather. So you're saying, hey, you can move the ball here. I could talk myself into both sides of this. I really could. So when that happens to me, I just stay the hell away from it and give me the minus 2.5. Give me the Colts.
Yeah, let's rip off some weather games starting right here in Green Bay. No other place to be than in Green Bay and start talking about weather conditions. And it's not really, sometimes we're talking about, hey, ice bowl, 10 degrees out. Not really the case. There is going to be some wind here, so let's get to it. 253, 254, Minnesota and Green Bay. Kirk Cousins takes the show on the road after a bye week to take on Aaron Rodgers, and everybody's looking at who? Is Dalvin Cook going to give it a go in this game? Limited practice all week. He's on track to go, and they really need him to try to jumpstart that offense because over the past couple weeks when Dalvin Cook was healthy along with Kirk Kirk Cousins and their wide receiving core, they were putting up some points and moving the football numbers-wise, right? Numbers-wise. But their defense stinks. They haven't had a good football team. And ready to go, 1-6, which we didn't see from Minnesota before the season. We said, hey, really good defense, good offense, good head coach. They'll hang around and be in this division right to the end. Not the case this year. So now you're looking at it from a perspective that maybe before the season, you're looking at this game like, you know what, this might be one of those deciding games in the NFC North. And certainly it's not going to be the case. 6 out of every 10 tickets here heading towards the Green Bay Packers. They open up at 7 across the board, but now we're seeing 6.5 across the way. Nice bounce back victory against a not a great football team with the Houston Texans, but you still got to put up points and exploit it. They did that last week and looked really good doing it, getting healthier as the season goes along. Don't think Aaron Jones is going to make it to the starting gate this week, but certainly did not need him last week. But now we take a look because earlier today, trying to find a way. I'm looking at team totals. First I'm starting with Minnesota, 23.5. Can they get to 24? But then the Green Bay Packers showing up anywhere between 28.5, 29.5, and 30.5. And then I look at the windy conditions here because the one thing I do like is Aaron Rodgers has a cannon, throws a precise spiral, so you can make it through most of that wind. But the problem then comes in, it's not so much the wind because how many times do we see with nice weather conditions, the extra point they can't make? Or how about a 45-yard field goal in nice conditions, very easy to make? If we're going to have 26-mile-an-hour winds, a crosswind, and 39 degrees, who knows how that is actually swirling? And if you get the offense on the wrong side of the field, that's just pure bad luck that you had. 26-yard line, going to set up for a field goal into the wind or a swirling wind. That's where you get caught up in these. So I sort of backed off my team total stance for the Green Bay Packers. I do think they win this game, but I think Minnesota keeps it close. Weather conditions, Dalvin Cook on the ground if he's healthy, I think that gives them a slight advantage, whereas if we had 60 degrees and no wind, I think Green Bay would just go up and down the field. Because I do want to leave you with this one point, Kyle. That secondary is extremely injured for the Vikings. Yeah. They're actually getting lucky if we get 30-mile-an-hour winds in this game, because if not, Rodgers would go crazy in this one.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going to lead off. Is that secondary is already really bad, Dantzler and Hill, et cetera. Now they could all be out, and we're talking about, maybe my neighbor playing secondary for Minnesota. Then they get bailed out. I mean, this game, they're saying maybe down into the 20s, wind gusts up to 40 miles an hour with sustained winds at 25. Yep. So they're going to have to run the football. Now, the one weakness of the Green Bay defense is they're vulnerable against the run. So getting Dalvin Cook back, even if it's not at full capacity, just giving him some of those explosive plays, and then letting the good young back Madison, who it appears didn't really like that number one role, at least in the one game that we saw him, was a big, big disappointment in that game. No Aaron Jones is a problem for the Packers. I think you're right. This plays to the under. I went ahead. I typically don't do this. I hate unders. You know this. We know this. We talk about it all the time. I absolutely hate unders. But with all this weather this week and still seeing totals up in the 50s, I can finally take advantage of that and say, if we're going to get weather like that, how is Kirk Cousins going to throw? Aaron Rodgers, strong arm, great thrower, absolutely. Kirk Cousins, noodle arm, what is Kirk Cousins going to do in 25-mile-an-hour winds? Is he going to be able to make the big plays to get the points to get this total up over that 51? I just don't see it. So, you've already seen it drop from, 56 down to 51 already. I took the under in this game. I think it's a low-scoring game and probably a close game that relies on the running game. You got to favor the Packers. 6.5 and 7 does make you a bit nervous. I think Green Bay is exponentially the better football team all across the board, offensively and defensively. Man, that 6.5, 7's tough. I bet the under. That's where I went on this game. I'm nervous about that weather. It looks like it's going to be nasty. So give me the Pack. If we're going to pick a side, I'll take the Packers, especially 6.5. I feel much better about that. If I'm at a book and it's at 7, I'm buying that half a point, maybe even to 5.5, because you talked about the missed kicks. So if they're up by 6 and they miss that damn extra point in the 25-mile-an-hour wind, or just decide, hey, we're not even going to try these extra points with this wind, even though Mason Crosby has a decent leg, then they're going for 2, not converting the conversion. So getting down, buying some points here, getting under that 6 number makes a lot of sense to me if you're taking Green Bay, and I like the under in this game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Because also keep in mind, like I always go back to this rhetoric. It's not a high school field. You go to a high school field and there's no wind restrictions whatsoever. These guys play in monstrous NFL stadiums that do block some of the wind. So we'll see how that's gusting. And again, when you're taking a look at these, if you don't want to bet early, it's always nice to say, let me watch the game, let me fire on it, because you'll know right away how bad that wind is affecting it on punts and field goals and even on the kickoff on that opening. So keep in mind on that as well. Junior Brown checking in the chat box. What's good, fellas? What is good? Junior Brown out there, certainly a good friend here of the SBR family. Let's keep going here. 255, 256, the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. And the theme of the day today on Thursday as we talk football, what is the weather going to be? How about this one? Rain and windy in Buffalo. Seems like a great day in Buffalo. If I would have told you it's going to be about 45 degrees on the first couple weeks of November, you would love it. Maybe Buffalo, if they had fans, they would all be in bathing suits and suntan lotion this one. But again, mid-20s wind gusts, rain in the forecast. Two teams struggling on offense. Now, last week, Buffalo did basically whatever they wanted to against the New York Jets, but weren't able to even cash in a single touchdown in that game. They scored a touchdown, got called back by a penalty. They dump it off to a tight end who can run 40 yards backwards into the end zone and mysteriously falls down around the 20-yard line. So that's what you get with the Buffalo Bills. And also, keep in mind, Kyle, we watched just 2 weeks ago going against the Kansas City Chiefs. Forget about the game the way it was. But you had a little bit of, windy weather conditions with some rain. They didn't look all that good on offense. And Josh Allen, yes, he can scramble around. Yes, he can make plays with his feet. But I wasn't impressed by that of how they played in those quote-unquote water games. Now, you're going to have that same type of effort today. You look at New England. They can't get it right on offense whatsoever. But I saw the news come out today. Julian Edelman is going to be out at wide receiver. And I saw a couple people, and I love social media. I'm on it all day long. It's my job to keep track of who's in, who's out, weather conditions, who's practicing, who's not. And I saw it filter down like, ooh, Edelman's out. And I'm the same person as everybody else. Donnie, 15 years ago, would have saw Julian Edelman out and immediately went over to my books like, how can I find a way to take the Buffalo Bills because Julian Edelman is out? But professional Donnie, over the past 10 years, looks at this and goes, this could be an opportunity, not necessarily to take a total in this game or even the New England Patriots, but what does Julian Edelman out of this offense actually mean for the New England Patriots in bad weather and the rain? They have a really good offensive line. Cam Newton knows he needs to bounce back. The one thing Cam Newton can do is run around and plow around and, create first downs all by himself, not in the passing game. So we take a look at Edelman outside of that monstrous game, Kyle, that he had against the Seattle Seahawks. The last 4 games combined, he has 8 catches. He's averaged 52 yards per game this season, including that effort where he had like $170 versus Seattle. If you look at the last 4 games where he's banged out, and he will miss this Buffalo Bills game, 2 catches for under 20 yards a game is his average. So Julian Edelman being out of this football game means absolutely nothing towards the line or what New England is going to do on offense. And again, I preface this by saying, not to say we're going to go run to the hills and take New England because they look bad on offense, but don't bet this game or think you have an edge on Buffalo because Julian Edelman is out.
Yeah, it doesn't. Even if it was a beautiful skies and Julian Edelman was 100% healthy, can Cam Newton hit him on a timing route or an option route over the middle accurately? I haven't seen that in the last 3 years. Cam Newton just can't throw the football. So, and then you look at Buffalo and, this feels like a trap. It really does. New England is down in the dumps. Cam Newton's down. It feels like we're Harry and Marv running into Kevin McAllister's house, right, and Home Alone. That's what it feels like right now. And we're about to get hit by a paint can and grab the hot, it's what it feels like.
Yep.
But I cannot back the New England Patriots. There's even talk this week. They're shopping Stephon Gilmore around. I mean, my God, how can we possibly back them? But it really does feel like a trap. It feels like the dirtiest of dirty traps. Still got to take Buffalo. No one in their right mind could confidently say they're taking New England. Now, if you want to play the trap narrative, and, we talk about it. We like to bet teams when people are down on them, and that tends to work out. We've seen it with the 49ers. We've seen it plenty of times this year. But, man, they look awful. And, I mean, even though the passing game doesn't really matter for New England, you got to be able to do something. And now we're talking about, Gunnar Olszewski and Jacoby Myers. I mean, my God, that is just, N'Keal Harry is going to probably be out for this game too. So it's really, really bad for the weapons in New England. I just don't see how they get it done. I just think by default, even if Buffalo plays poorly, they should be able to do enough to beat the New England Patriots. But my trap radar is very high in this game. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, because you're expecting a bounce back from New England. And again, their offense doesn't really line up to do much. They're extremely slow on offense, but also you bring up an even better point as well. Like, ooh, N'Keal Harry's out there, first-round draft pick. Look at his statistics. He's a bust. He stinks. It doesn't matter if he's out. What you're factoring this game plan on is how can you beat the Buffalo Bills, right? You run the football and use a good offensive line and a mobile quarterback. That's the only thing New England has going for them. If it was a really nice day, Kyle, if we were getting 50 degrees, under 10-mile-an-hour winds, and sunny skies, and John Brown is healthy for Buffalo, they hang it on New England. I don't care how good New England's defense is or what their secondary is or what sort of game plan we got. Josh Allen in that offense would hang it on New England. But if you're going to say a guy that's already struggles a little bit with the deep ball, does it matter if your guys can run by defenders? Not really, because that ball is going to be off target as is with 25-mile-an-hour winds. Then you factor in some rain, and you're looking for those little bumps and those edges, because when you look at it, we're not asking this game just to win it by 1 point. You're going to have to win it by 4 is what it looks like across the board with a total of 41, which means Buffalo's going to have to win this game for you to cash primarily by 7 points is what you're adjusting it for. Not saying take New England, but this is going to be a lot closer than what people think just because of the styles of this football game. And again, we open up at 46. We're down to 41s. I wouldn't be surprised if that drops even further. Maybe it's like 40.5 or even 40 by the time we get to the starting gate. If I have to take a pick in this game, maybe the New England Patriots first half getting the field goal, saying, you know what, windy conditions, weather, maybe they play well, maybe they have a couple scripted drives they can work out and be up by 3 or maybe a tie at the break would make sense to me. But when you take a look at that over-under 41.5, neither one of these teams are scoring any points. So it does play to an under, but as we say, 40 in the NFL. Wow.
If it gets to 40 or under, I'm going to be one of those crazy people and take the over and just cross my fingers. You know, I'm not going to play it scared on that, but oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, if I'm picking a side, I just can't. Cam Newton and that offense looks so bad.
Horrible.
They look so bad. And look, this is not me buying in on Buffalo. It's just it's really an indictment on New England, you know. So this one's really tough on me. I suppose I would take Buffalo. I think you're right to point out, you know, 3.5 and 4. Do you really feel great about Buffalo winning by a touchdown? In these conditions,
they're so much more talented. They're so much more talented on offense, Kyle. But what is the great equalizer? It's the weather, and that's what you're going to get in this game.
Exactly. It's another rough weather game, and it's a great point. We just didn't see Josh Allen and that offense look great in the last weather game they played against Kansas City. It was kind of a similar defense, you know, good secondary. So it's going to be this one's going to be rough. I'm leaning Buffalo right now, and if that thing gets to like 39.5 or 40, I'm going to jump on the over and cross my fingers and go for it. Start drinking early.
3 straight teams that the Buffalo Bills have played, which aren't necessarily known for their dominating defensive performances: 16 versus Tennessee, 17 versus Kansas City, 18 versus the Jets. We're expecting them to bounce back, but again, it's New England's defense, and we got some weather conditions, so we'll keep an eye on that game. Let's keep going here on Sunday, 2:57, 2:58. Tennessee and Cincinnati. You immediately look at this game, be like, Tennessee's going to blow them out. Like, what are we messing around here for? Line opens up at 4, goes right to 6. Now we're seeing a little bit of a peel back here, and it's interesting to look at because the last 2 weeks for Tennessee, you're talking about games that went to overtime, should have went to overtime, needed freaky comebacks, but I think we can both agree Tennessee's offense should be able to put it on Cincinnati. But here's Joe Burrow at home playing some sneaky good football, throwing it to his boys at wide receiver, even without Mixon last week, moved against a decent Cleveland defense. And there's not much resistance there from a Tennessee side. But here's the issue that we have now, because you can only go out there and play with the soldiers you got. What I mean by that is your offensive line. If you're going to be down both your starting tackles and possibly your center this week, if you have some talent on the defensive side of the ball, which Tennessee does, that's going to be tough on a rookie quarterback. Maybe he gets Mixon back this weekend to try to lean on some of the running game and take the pressure off. Do I have any doubt that they're still going to drop Joe Burrow back with a half of an offensive line 45 times? They probably will, because they need to if they're going to score points to hang with Tennessee. But this is one of those games that looks a little bit lower. I do think Tennessee does win this football game by a touchdown. I honestly do. Am I running to the window to try to bet it? No. I'm trying to see with those weather conditions again that we're going to continuously talk about, not as bad, meaning 50 degrees and still 18 to 19 mile-an-hour winds on the field. So we're not talking about ideal conditions like we may have had last week, and they still were missing kicks and extra points in that football game. But the over-under, which opened up at 55.5, common theme this week, 53.5 now. Wouldn't be surprised to see it go even lower. trying to figure out a way here to take that Tennessee team total because I think that makes the most sense. The gift that keeps on giving for me, Kyle, is anybody going against Cincinnati's defense. Now, what did they do also? The only guy that possibly could rush the passer and get home, Carlos Dunlap, poof, off to Seattle. So I'm looking for some way to take Tennessee on that team total line today, Kyle.
Yeah, I think that as long as the weather sort of holds up, and I mean, it looks a little bit rugged, but not as bad as the other games we're talking about. This should be a high-scoring game, and I kind of like that total has come down a little bit. Yep. Look, the Tennessee Titans are no better than 6th worst in the league in terms of targets, receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns allowed to wide receivers. Their past 5 wide receiver units they faced have all scored over 45 fantasy points. Now you take Christian Fulton, who is being torched in the slot, matched up with Tyler Boyd. He's hurt, so you bring in Chris Jackson, who somehow is even worse than the rookie Christian Fulton. So I think the Bengals are going to be Joe Mixon's not looking good for him this week, so it might be another Giovanni Bernard week. So you're going to see 45 or 50 passes again out of Joe Burrow, and they are going to have the matchups, not just on the outside, but in the slot as well. I think the points are there. Derrick Henry should be able to run over this Cincinnati defense. I do think there's points in this game. I do think the Titans win. The 5.5 and 6 makes me nervous because Joe Burrow has, for lack of a better term, backdoored me several times this year. Yikes. I like the Titans to win this game. I like the over in this game, but I do think the Bengals are a sneaky cover here at home at 5.5 and 6. So I'll take the Bengals. I'm going to try to get the Bengals right and get one of these covers right for Joe Burrow. Give me the Bengals to keep it a game 34-30 in some weird weather conditions. Give me the over and give me the Bengals to cover, but the Titans win.
One of those games I like to say, everybody and they mama betting those Tennessee Titans. So we'll see how that one turns out this week. 259-260, the Las Vegas Raiders coming to town to play the I don't want to say upstart. I guess, hey, we're all liking the season so far. Thought this is where Cleveland would be at this point. No Odell Beckham Jr. I don't think it matters one iota if Odell Beckham plays or does not play for Cincinnati and how they're going to be able to operate. So I'm not really all that worried about that. 6 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on Las Vegas. It's just a matter of fact, the last time we saw Las Vegas play football, didn't really work out too well for Las Vegas as it got bounced by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If we look across the board here, over under, again, here's another common theme. 55.5. We're now down to 51s at some outlets out here. And the Browns that opened up at -3, now down to 2.5. This is a really good football game that I think we're going to come into talking from a spread perspective because I don't see either one of these teams running away with it. But I do think the Oakland Raiders, if they come in healthy, what I mean by that is their offensive line to get Trent Brown back, which he's expected to be back at left tackle, they can do some things versus this Cleveland defense. I think they can keep it close and close enough to be able to steal a victory because I'm not a huge Baker Mayfield guy. But Las Vegas doesn't have a great defense. If you have a defense that can pressure Baker Mayfield, he's a terrible quarterback. If you let him sit in the pocket, he'll go 20 for 20 against the Bengals over the second, third, and fourth quarter and throw 4 touchdown passes. He will do that. I like the Raiders here getting the points, though.
Yeah, it's close. It's going to come down to the running games. This is another game, 25-mile-an-hour winds, and these are not too strong arm. They have okay arms, but the big plays just aren't going to be there. Now with OBJ out, it's going to be a lot of short passes. Maybe they can get something done to the young rookie Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's shown some explosivity in the passing game, but it's going to be a lot of short passes in the slot to Jarvis Landry. He's got a nice matchup there against LaMarcus Joyner, but I think you see a lot of Kareem Hunt and a lot of Josh Jacobs in this game. If the Raiders' offensive line is healthy, I think it does favor them just a little bit. Josh Jacobs, a big bruising runner. That Cleveland defense, really, really bad against the run. So are the Raiders, on the other hand. So both these teams, not great at stopping the run. But I like the value here. I think I'm with you, and I know Raiders fans think I pick on their team all the time, but I actually like the value here. When conditions are tough and things are rough, and I'm not saying the Raiders defense, but the conditions outside, if anything is challenging for Baker Mayfield, he's really shown a propensity to kind of fold under that type of pressure and adversity. A lot of running in this game. I think the under is a nice call on this. I just don't see the big plays for the Raiders, either to Henry Ruggs, etc., against a vulnerable Browns secondary. I think this is a slow-paced game, lots of running, lots of short passes, ugly weather. So I think we go under the 51, but I think I agree with you right now. I think the Raiders can win this football game. I mean, we saw Cleveland struggle against a bad Cincinnati team last week and got lucky to win that game. And of course, their garbage kicker can't make an extra point to give it, get that win for all of us. But I think I'm with you. I like the Raiders, and I like the under quite a bit. I actually went ahead already early in the weekend, bet the under on this game.
Yeah, common theme in the chat box, Tony Strong. If weather plays, I like Jacobs in a bad weather more than Hunt, and also Abel Alvarez. If Trent Brown is back, bet Josh Jacobs total rushing yards. I think we're in agreement. Yes. I love that offensive line for the Raiders. They can lean on people, and also keep in mind, best pass rusher Myles Garrett has missed a few practices this week with a bad ankle for Cleveland, so we'll see how that plays into it. He's probably a gamer. He'll be good to go, but it would be nice to get a fully talented, healthy offensive line back on the ball. Let's keep going here. Yeah. Don't need to spend a lot of time on this game. 261, 262. That's the New York Jets and the Kansas City Chiefs. 6 out of 10 tickets here coming in on Kansas City. It would be 99% if you're just picking the game straight up. But again, we're gamblers. There's point spreads involved and a healthy point spread involved in this one. We saw it as high as 21, 20.5. It's now settled in. Kyle, looks like around that 19.5 level. Over under 48.5, which is now sitting at 49. And I got to say, my first inclination in this game is I do think Kansas City really puts the screws to the New York Jets. But the last couple weeks, the Jets defense has fought. 24 points to Miami, even though the offense continuously put them in really bad spots in that game. And then last week, even though the Buffalo Bills went up and down the field, they bowed up in the red zone and didn't allow a touchdown versus the Bills. Do I think they're not going to allow a touchdown to the Kansas City Chiefs? Absolutely not. So instead of looking at this monstrosity of a number, which I do think Kansas City can win by 21 in this game, the one I'm looking for is I think Kansas City's defense gets a little underhyped of how decent they are. They can rush the passer a little bit. They can play a little bit in the secondary. And you're talking about a Jets offense here that theoretically, if the Jets are smart, right, they ain't winning anything this year. They don't want to win any games this year. They want to get that top overall pick. So if I'm looking from a Jets perspective and Jamison Crowder is banged up still with his groin injury, he's not going to play. He's their only offensive weapon. You saw last week, Perriman finally comes back to the lineup, shows a little bit, and then gets knocked into oblivion, and now he's going to be out, possibly with a concussion, which only leaves the rookie Denzel Mims, who looked decent last week. That's not enough for me. That doesn't say the Jets are going to get to a 17-point number. I like the under 49 in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the only way you're taking the over is if you expect Kansas City to just drop 42 or 47 on them, because I just don't see how the Jets score. What is Braxton Berrios going to carry them to glory? It's absolutely atrocious, that football team. And so I think you're right to take the under on that. And I mean, who wants to play with 3 touchdown spreads in the NFL? It's just, I mean, if I had a gun to my head and you had to take a side, there's no way I'm betting the Jets. I'd want to. You never want to take 19.5 point spreads. But God, the Jets are so bad. And you know who else is rooting really hard to make sure Kansas City wins this game and rooting for Jets losses is Clemson, right? Because Trevor Lawrence might look at this team and say, no, thank you. I am not going to the New York Jets. You guys can keep the Lego policeman at quarterback, and I'll come back to Clemson for another year. Because I don't see anybody wanting to go, especially after you see what's happened to Sam Darnold being the number 4 pick in the draft. They do absolutely nothing to help their team. Their head coach is an absolute disaster. They refuse to fire him, which is beyond me. Take the under in this game. Run away from that spread. No, thank you. I'll leave that to the college football guys. I don't touch spreads at 19.5 unless I can trust the underdog to put up some points, and I simply can't trust him to do that.
Yeah, I love to see the Trevor Lawrence talk out here. We're like, oh, he's not going to go. Trust me, he's going to the Jets. And if you are a pro athlete and you're going to have a chance to go to New York to play, that means exponentially a ton more money and heralded fanfare if you make it, and everything that comes along with being there. Because I look at Eli Manning, your average NFL quarterback. If he actually stayed in San Diego, nobody would have ever heard of him ever again, and we wouldn't have any conversations about is Eli good, is he making it? Be like, he was an okay quarterback, which is all he was throughout his NFL career. If you go there and make it, you will be a superstar. You will get to the Hall of Fame and do a damage. So I always get it. Maybe I'll come back. There's no way in hell he's going back to Clemson when one of the biggest cities in the world is saying, here, come and save our franchise here. Stop the madness. Let's keep moving on. 263, 264. Rams and the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa will get his first NFL start, and he's going up against a nasty defense. Good secondary. Okay linebackers, but there's a man sitting in the middle wearing number 99, and it's not Wayne Gretzky, but he is still a damn good all-time great on the defensive line. That's Aaron Donald. I got to tell you, Kyle, this morning, I saw the lines, and it's dipping a little bit because when we take a look overall, opens up at 3.5, went to 4. Now we're seeing 3.5s across the board. 3s with some juice at some certain outlets here, specifically in New Jersey here at FanDuel. I almost pushed the button on the Rams, and then I took a step back because making money on rookie quarterbacks typically is very hard to do in the NFL. But I got to tell you, I started looking overall at what the Dolphins are doing and tried to get because usually, hey, we just saw the Rams on Monday Night Football put away the Chicago Bears. Nick Foles was a Super Bowl MVP. They have a really good defense, and they blew them off the field. They should be able to go ahead with not many fans and really put it to the Miami Dolphins. But then as you start to look at the Dolphins, opened up with a loss playing New England when we thought New England might actually be something in the opening game of the year, which they should have had a cover, except Fitzpatrick throws a late interception that game. Then they play the Buffalo Bills, only lose by 3 points. Hammer Jacksonville, play Seattle right down to the bone. If it wasn't for Russell Wilson, scoring touchdowns in the last minute of games, they possibly win and at least get a cover in that football game. Blow out San Francisco, blow out the Jets, and I pulled back. I said, I got to look at a lot more factors in this game because of how well rookies are stepping in, coming off of a bye. I still like the Rams, but I was so close to pushing the button on the Rams to bet, and I backed off here, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, if you're betting Miami, what you're hoping for here is that the athleticism of Tua can just make these outrageous plays and sort of these broken plays, because when you look at that secondary for the Rams, this is no joke. They're going to have a tough matchup. Now, the bye week came at the right time. Devontae Parker to get healthy, and let's see if he can stay healthy for a whole game. That would be really nice if he could do that. But then he's going to see Jalen Ramsey, or he's going to see Darius Williams, who are playing really, really well. So unless you're getting these sort of broken plays, Lamar Jackson-type bombs when they're coming in to tackle him, it's going to be really tough on that Miami offense. Then you look at the Rams offense. Jared Goff on the road. Sometimes Jared Goff looks like a Pro Bowler and all-world quarterback with all the tools. Then you see him and like, man, this guy looks lost. He looks absolutely lost. Now he's going up against two corners in Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, who are two excellent corners. So they're going to have to attack the middle of the field. Tyler Higbee is going to be iffy with that bruised hand. So it is something to keep an eye on. I actually like the under in this game, even though it's at 46 and it's the Rams and Miami and they've been scoring. I actually like the under in this game. I think both defenses play to the strengths of the other team's offense. I think the Rams cover. They're the better overall around team. If you're betting Miami, you better really believe in Tua and hope that he comes out in this first game with these unusual broken plays and kind of makes things happen with his legs, because it's going to be really hard to get the ball to those receivers against that Rams secondary. I like the Rams, but more than that, I like the under 46 in this game.
Over 300 people watching us here live, spending your Thursday with us, talking a little bit of NFL football. Keep in mind, in just a few moments here, we'll bring in Kelsey Kramer to talk a little bit about the Pick Six contest. And also at the end of the show, we're going to circle back on tonight's NFL game on Thursday Night Football between the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers and give out some prop bets. We do have some primetime games that we want to talk about. 3 of them left on the card, so we'll try to speed it up on some of these underling games. But one game we want to spend a little bit of time on here, 281, 282. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. The minute this line came out, 5.5. Everybody and their mama ran to bet the Steelers. And to be quite honest, I can't really fault them for doing that, because now I'm looking across the board. Opens up at opens up as a favorite of 5.5 to Baltimore. SBRodds.com offshore. Now we're seeing it dip down to 4 at most outlets, 3.5 with some juice. So now I pull back and say, all right, when the 5.5s are gone, or the 6s that possibly were out there early in the week on the Steelers, obviously all gone, how can I find a way to take the Baltimore Ravens in this game? And I think a buy point for me is if I can get a 3 with some juice, like minus 120 is not good, not paying 135 to get 3s, but something that would be relative. I might be buying back on the Baltimore Ravens. Also, as you take a look at the Ravens, doesn't look like Mark Ingram is going to make it to the starting gate in this football game. But I hasten to say, it is a big loss, but in the grand scheme of things, you still have a quote-unquote elite running back still in Lamar Jackson, averaging 6.9 yards per carry. Don't forget about J.K. Dobbins, the young kid, 6.2 yards per carry. Even though Mark Ingram has a 4.5 yard per carry average, so does Gus Edwards at 4.5 yards. If Ingram doesn't play, it's a slight loss. It's more of a loss because of an overnamed running back. Would you rather have Mark Ingram in? Sure you would. But this isn't the horse of the offense, Kyle. If I told you, hey, you know what? Derrick Henry's going to miss the game for Tennessee. Like, whoa, I got to readjust my numbers here. He's the catalyst. No. He's not really the catalyst on that offense. No. They have other capable requirements. But the one thing we're struggling with here is the actual throwing ability of Lamar Jackson this season. Now, when you take a look, hey, Donnie, 10 TDs, 2 interceptions. He's doing his job. Hasn't looked that great over the past couple weeks. Now, it might have been one of those knee injuries where he was nicked up just trying to get healthy. They're coming off a bye. We know how good the Baltimore Ravens are at home, even though the Kansas City Chiefs came in and really put it to them. This is going to be a really hard-fought AFC North battle. And the price point for me is going to be that anything north of the 3.5. I think the Steelers are going to give them hell in this football game. I still think the Ravens can win it, but if I'm going to get down on this game, I'm trying to find my way to take the Ravens in this game, but I do need the Ravens at a decent price point for me to see if it makes sense. What are you looking at in this game here?
Exactly. And you mentioned Mark Ingram. It's kind of interesting when you dive into it. He's had the third fewest carries. He has less carries than Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. He's the third most used running back on that team, which is really strange. And you look at that Pittsburgh defense, that secondary is very, very good. Now, they might be without Mike Hilton. The only reason Mike Hilton hurts that defense, it's not for his coverage. He's absolutely dreadful in the slot and coverage, but he's a good tackling defensive back who can sort of help them shadow and chase around Lamar Jackson. Now, when you look at that Baltimore passing game, who are you really afraid of in that passing game? Willie Snead? No. Miles Boykin? Hollywood Brown? A little bit. Lamar Jackson's arm has not looked great this year. He just hasn't wowed people. This is going to be a close defensive game. This is probably the most unders I've ever taken ever in the history of mankind. I hate taking unders, but I think this is a close game. Both teams in the low 20s, maybe the high teens. I don't see a ton of points here, and I think Pittsburgh covers the spread. I'm going to take the road underdog. Pittsburgh has been really, really good to me. I have obviously not lost yet with the Steelers, which I think is a mute point, useless sound, if you will. But I just think Pittsburgh's a better overall team. I think they have a better offense. I think they have a better defense as well. I think they come in here, win a very, very close game. It's going to come down to the late in the fourth quarter. I think it's low scoring. I like the under, and I like the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road in Baltimore.
And our NBA superstar in the chat box out here, Jay Money, is welcome in here. So thank you guys. Part of that SBR family. Close to 325 people currently watching now on our network, but having a good time talking about this game. It's a 1 o'clock game. I'll have my eyes fixated on that because even though nobody will watch the Philadelphia Eagles, at least they're on at night so I can pay attention a little bit more. Going over the total in this game, opened up at 49, Kyle. 46.5 set across the board. Not really much weather. You're talking about 60 degrees, still under 15 miles an hour. Two really good field goal kickers. So if you're looking to affect maybe a rookie, hey, 15 miles an hour wind, go ahead and see just Tucker out there. I don't care if there's 70 mile an hour winds. He's still plugging 60-yard field goals in these games. But it's a great game to watch. I do agree with the points. If you got in early with the Steelers, I agree the 5.5, too much to pass up. But now we're getting into those Baltimore buy points. It's the question in this game, Kyle, we're going to be saying, like, damn it, why did I bet Lamar Jackson? They're down, let's just say 20-10 in the fourth quarter. He's not really a comeback guy, a quarterback. But I do think you're going to get an honest effort. And also keep in mind, Yannick Ngakoue comes over on the bye week. He's ready to go. COVID cleared. That's another big-time pass rusher for that defense. Should be a fun game to watch in the AFC North. 275, 276. A game that's currently off the board at a lot of places. That's the Chargers and the Denver Broncos. Why? Looks like a backup offensive lineman for the Chargers tested positive for COVID. They did close down their complex. Looks like the game is still going to be going on. But as I said, we're not getting any lines at most outlets, so we won't spend a lot of time on this game. We'll sharpen those pencils, as we like to say on Sunday morning. Line sits somewhere around the 3 range, 44, 45.5, but I don't want to waste any time on this game. We'll keep moving forward until that gets back on the board, but keep in mind, we'll cover this game. It'll be rocking and ready to go on our Sunday show, 12 p.m. noon right here on the channel. So let's move forward. 267, 268, New Orleans and Chicago. Drew Brees and Nick Foles. Weather conditions in this game, certainly have to keep an eye out. You take that cold weather, put a dome team in it with an older quarterback without a big arm, and an older quarterback without a big arm, and down his best 2 wide receivers on the outside. Now, some would say the scheming by Sean Payton last week, you saw it, they can do it. I think this actually plays into Drew Brees' strengths here, as crazy as that sounds. No Michael Thomas at wide receiver, and again, no Emmanuel Sanders. You work in Alvin Kamara as that third type of wideout. You lean on that big, nasty offensive line, and you say, if Allen Robinson doesn't go for the Chicago Bears, I still like New Orleans. And typically, this is a game I would look at and say, no way I'm back in New Orleans in this game. 2 wideouts going, really good defense. Drew Brees is outdoors. It's really windy, but I've seen it before. It wasn't too long ago where Teddy Bridgewater was the quarterback, went into Chicago without any help, and they blew the Bears right off the field. Not saying they'll do that this week, but we already talked about it Monday Night Football, Kyle. This team is impotent on offense, meaning the Chicago Bears. They can't do anything fast. You take away their only weapon, how do they move the football? Because New Orleans still has a pretty good defense. I like the Saints here. It's at 4, now seeing him 4.5. Not surprised if that goes to 5 and 5.5. I think New Orleans is markedly better than the Bears, even without their 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, this is going to be an ugly game. Drew Brees is not the same quarterback on the road. Obviously, that doesn't matter when you're going up against Nick Foles, who's just absolutely god-awful. Now you take Allen Robinson. He's in concussion protocol. He may miss this game. So now you're relying on Darnell Mooney and Anthony Miller and, Cole Kmet.
Cole Kmet, baby. Cole
Kmet, yeah. Good luck with that. And then you look at New Orleans. There might not just be without Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, but also their leading target guy from when they were both out, Marquez Callaway, is also limited and iffy for this week. So now here we go again. You're relying on Traquan. I might be the worst wide receiver in the league, Smith, and Jared Cook. Still, like the Saints, simply no Allen. If Allen Robinson was playing this game, I would take the Bears at home. I would take the home underdog. I think Allen Robinson could help that offense move it a little bit. It's going to be tough sledding. That total's at 43.5, and I'm not going to touch the under on that or the over. This is a game I'm staying away from. Just way too many injuries, way too many marquee players out, the weather conditions. I don't trust either quarterback. I hope of all the games, I hope this is the game I see the least of on Red Zone, because this is going to be ugly. Not excited for this game at all. And I'm going to be pissed if I hear Chris Hansen talking about this game for 25 minutes and they're showing me Nick Foles to Darnell Bleep and Mooney. I'm going to be really pissed on Sunday afternoon. But I'm not expecting that. I think this is an ugly game. It's a total pass for me. But if I had to pick a side, I would take the Saints if the Bears are indeed without Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I trust the coaching staff much, much more here in this situation. Again, Drew Brees is still a veteran quarterback. He's not going to push the football down the field as is, so maybe it really doesn't matter who's on the outside. They worked in Jared Cook very well last week. You have, as I said, a really good offensive line. You have two capable running backs, including one elite one in Alvin Kamara. They should be able to do some things to move the football, and it just comes down to, Kyle, no Allen Robinson on the Bears offense. If the Bears win this game, you tip the cap and move on. I just don't see how many points they can get, specifically in windy weather conditions also. And I saw somebody in the chat box here saying, Clint Richardson, I'm on the under Bears 20.5. I think that's a decent play, even though me, I can't stand over-unders. Now let's move it across. 425 on Sunday, San Francisco and Seattle. What a great win by San Francisco. Pick up an easy victory over New England, but to get even more injured in this game. But it seems like they have an endless supply of running backs, and Kyle Shanahan, to me, is the single best offensive mind in football, specifically as a play caller. He'll be able to work in some plays that work going against up a really bad Seattle defense. But what it comes down to me is, if you're Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers, your Swiss Army knife Deebo Samuel is going to be out for this football game. You're already down a lot of playmakers. Yeah, we love George Kittle. Of course we do. Ayuk looks like he's going to be a pretty good young player. But now you don't have that guy that you can run those motion sweeps. And when you see those motion sweeps, you have to really focus and say, I got to stay in my lane. I got to have backside pressure. I can't just give up and crash the quarterback, because if Deebo Samuels gets the ball, he's essentially another running back and can rip off a big gain. That's not going to be there in this game. We also know that San Francisco 49ers defense can't catch any breaks either. Does it come down to, look in this game, I can't see, and I guess it's hard to say that because I can't see Seattle losing this football game at home. And I'm even seeing 2.5s break through with a lot of juice for Seattle, even though their defense is bad. Carlos Dunlap got traded there. He's not going to play this week. Still has to clear COVID conditions. He's going to come in down the line. I still trust Russell Wilson in this spot at home on turf more than I do San Francisco. This game was 4 points, Kyle. I might be leaning San Francisco here, but I think Seattle is good enough to win this football team, and a 2.5 to 3 point line is all you need to win. I'm still going to go with Seattle here.
Yeah, the Deebo Samuel injury is a big deal for the 49ers. When you look at the weakness of Seattle, it's obviously that defense. I mean, they have not given up fewer than 39 fantasy points to any of the wide receiver units they faced. They're the worst team in coverage in the entire league. They also allow the fourth most touchdowns to opposing wide receivers in the NFL. That being said, now you're down to Brandon Ayuk, Kendrick Bourne, Trent Taylor. Having Deebo Samuel would be a huge addition when you're already going to be without Mostert, and now the guy who, when you're without Mostert, sort of that guy who's been taking over that power back lead role, Jeff Wilson Jr., he's also going to be out. A chance you get Tevin Coleman back. Jerick McKinnon's healthy. Kyle Shanahan sort of announced last week was a de facto rest week for Jerick McKinnon, which sort of makes sense against that New England team. Wilson's just a better matchup. But without Deebo Samuel, it's going to be tough. Then you look at the Seattle side of the ball. Even though the 49ers defense has overachieved with all of those injuries, they've actually been pretty solid, sixth against quarterbacks, sixth against wide receivers, pretty good against the run. Without Chris Carson, he's going to be real iffy. They're going to hold him out all the way till Sunday and see if he can play. Carlos Hyde, he might miss this week. Now he's trending in the right direction, but typically with Carlos Hyde, they'll say, oh, he's trending. Oh, never mind. He can't give it a go. Travis Homer, also injured. So you could be down to DJ Dallas at running back, your boy, right? Over there from
the Homer and DJ Dallas, them you boys over there.
Yeah, that's right. So then you're saying, guess what? We're going to let Russ cook at home. You get that matchup on the perimeter. Last week, it was Tyler Lockett week. This week, DK Metcalf, has the matchup on the outside with Emmanuel Mosley. I like DK Metcalf and Wilson quite a bit. If Deebo Samuel is healthy, I'd be riding my 49ers into Seattle and picking them to cover or win this game. Without Deebo Samuel, I don't know that they have enough explosive plays, even against a bad defense, to overcome what Russell Wilson's going to do. If Russ is going to throw 40 times and they're not going to try to force that running game against the 49ers, it could be a long, long afternoon for the 49ers. So give me the Seahawks.
Yeah, over-under opened up at 54, now down to 53. It's a close one either way. We'll wait to see some of these final practice reports to see who is available. But you're right. If you can get a Tevin Coleman back and get a little bit healthy at running back, that is going to make a difference here. But It's Russ. It's so hard to bet against Russ. Like, you need more than 2.5 or 3 for me in this game, specifically with Seattle being at home, to trust that. Let's move on to Sunday Night Football, 271, 272. Those Dallas Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles. And it looks like Ben DiNucci is going to come in as a starting quarterback for the Cowboys in Philadelphia. Now, immediately, those early lines on Sunday, 3.5. Obviously, they took the game off the board, came back at 7.5. Now we're seeing 7.5, 8.5, even as high as 9 at some outlets. And I do agree with the line movement, but here I am once again. Look, the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFC East. They're going to win the NFC East unless somebody goes out and trades for some ridiculous quarterback to save the season and get busted up the first round of the playoffs. I don't think anybody's going to do that. So as the teams are constituted now, every team outside the Eagles stinks at quarterback, right? So that's really what's going to win you football games. The Eagles will get some players back to make them a little bit better as the season goes on. Dallas is dead in the water with their quarterback situation. The Giants are dead in the water with their quarterback situation. Washington's dead in the water with their quarterback situation. So the game sets up perfectly for the Eagles. Picked up the win last week against the Giants. They'll beat the Cowboys this week. They get a bye week to get healthy, and then they'll go up and mop up the Giants, which I think we beat every year, as I'd like to say, since 1955. Yeah. So that's going to be a nice movement forward. But again, we talk about games, Kyle. It's not that the Eagles are not going to win this game. Playing a favorite role, it's hard enough for the Eagles just to win games. The Giants are horrendous. Do we forget the Eagles were down 10 points with like 6 minutes to go at home to the Giants, right? So at least Dallas comes in, and it looks like they quit, but they have some talent. And if talent hangs around in a football game, talent gets excited and thinks they can win football games. Do I think they're going to win with Ben DiNucci at quarterback? Absolutely not. But the fact that the Eagles are showing up as a 9-point favorite over anybody, even a high school team, is absurd. It's still Boston Scott. It's still Fulgham as your wide receiver. It's a banged-up Mosh unit offensive line. It's a good defensive line the Eagles have. Nothing at linebacker and an average secondary. I don't think that they're going to lose this game, but I'm not rushing to say Eagles 24-0 or 31-0, which it could end up. But let's remember, the Eagles we tied the Bengals at home. We should have lost to the Giants at home. Now it's -9. Come on, man.
Oh, God. This is 2 one-legged men in an ass-kicking contest. Not one, but 2. And it's like, who's got the longer legs? I guess it's the Eagles, right? They have the better defensive front. You've seen Dallas is just a mess. Now, you got the Don Terry Poe mess. They trade away Everson Griffin. They're going to start the bagman for the mob and Ben DiNucci. I mean, he's the guy making your subs at Jimmy John's, and now here he is, quarterbacking for the Cowboys. I just can't take the Eagles -9. Now, if you're going to take the Eagles, I guess just buy some points and get this thing under a touchdown. I do think the Eagles are a touchdown better. The Dallas Cowboys are an absolute train wreck. Mike McCarthy has been an absolute train wreck. You see it, even his press conference today, they ask him a simple question. Hey, is it harder to prepare for a running back? Is that supposed to be funny? He can't even, the guy can't even speak right. The guy is so low IQ on every level. No thank you on the Cowboys. I'm going to buy some points on the Eagles if I'm betting this game. I'm more going to sit back and watch this for the entertainment and the train wreck that it is. I hope the Eagles beat the brakes off them just because I cannot stand the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy. But it won't shock me if they play down to their competition either. We've sort of seen that. You mentioned with the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, it's a big divisional game. You got to like the Eagles here. Absolutely hate that line at 9, and I'm seeing a bunch of 9s now and 8.5. Buy some points there, and for the most part, stay the hell away from it. Just enjoy your Sunday night. Make some dinner. Maybe order in. Enjoy your night, and enjoy watching the Cowboys lose.
Now, yeah, outside of Philadelphia, it's probably what most people will do, but we still relish the fact that we slapped them around. We should be able to take it down and get a win, but I'm not interested in laying 9 in this one. Look, Ben DiNucci, I don't know what you're going to get out of him, but it can't be anything worse than what Andy Dalton was actually giving you. And it's one of those things when I talk about the Cleveland Browns, Kyle, when you try to match up what they do best, maybe it's good that they had a quarterback that has never played in the NFL. Not to say he's going to throw it all over the place, but just lean on Zeke and say, hey, it's the Eagles offense. What's their max output? Like 21 points? You could be able to hang around this game, but it will be fun to beat them up. Monday Night Football. And this, when I talk about like there's a shark, if you watch Jaws or Open Water, there's blood in the water in this football game. And if you have been following on Twitter or social media, the New York Giants look like they might be quarantining their entire offensive line. How did that work out last week when the Raiders quarantined their entire offensive line? They got thumped on the football field. Now you have high school Joe Judge and his boys trying to take on a hungry pass-rushing Tom Brady squad. Now, Godwin's probably going to miss this football game. Maybe be back next week or the week after that. Antonio Brown, not eligible to play this week. He'll be back at some point over the next week to two, and he'll be able to be inserted. But I'm just looking as a perspective where the Giants stink overall, and now Daniel Jones is going to go be a sacrificial lamb because there's a really good shot that all of the Giants' offensive line could be out for this football game. My goodness, is a number high enough in this one? I look for it, like when you get a line of 10.5, and let's just say some of the game is off the board at some outlets here, I immediately go to the first half and I try to find a 6.5 and say, there's no way Tampa Bay is not up a touchdown at the half on this horrendous football team. That's the way I'm going in this one, Kyle.
Yeah, and then you got Devontae Freeman sort of banged up too, and it's not like Tampa Bay is easy to run the football on anyway, so now it's just, holy moly, what are they going to do on offense? Oh, we're going to throw the ball. Well, that Tampa Bay secondary vastly improved. Now, they are going to be without, I sort of gaffed here on Tuesday. It's after this week that Antonio Brown can debut, and you've got the Chris Godwin injury, so they're going to be relying on Mike Evans, who I will say, James Bradberry, if you go look back at his games in Carolina, and even last year, James Bradberry has been very, very, very good against Mike Evans. So it's going to be a tough game for Mike Evans. He historically does not play well against James Bradberry coverage. James Bradberry's shadow coverage has gotten much better over the past several weeks. So that 12 points, even though, I mean, the Giants are absolutely terrible. That football team is dreadful. It might be a little bit hard. You might see a lot more running in this game from Tampa Bay, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. Because outside of Evans, who I do think struggles against James Bradberry, they're going to Scotty Miller and Justin Watson and, Gronk. This could be a Gronk game. Still got to lean Tampa Bay. The Giants, you can't trust them in any facet, especially against a Tampa Bay team who's, in the top 3 in sacks, now without your offensive line. All signs point to a Tampa Bay blowout here. But you get a little nervous when there's such limited weapons for Tampa Bay there. If you're relying on Watson and Miller, it could get a little greasy, but I still think Tampa Bay is good enough to win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I got him up 7 at the break. That's the way I'm going to go on this one. Now it's time to talk a little bit of pick 6 action, which I had a winning week last week, trying to hang around. I'm in that mid 200 range out of about 1,500 people, however many people were in the contest, trying to move up this week. But now it's time to bring in our first lady of football, Kelsey Kramer, to talk a little bit of pick 6 action, but also her Atlanta Falcons are on deck tonight to go up against the Carolina Panthers. What's good out there, Kelsey?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
It's going very well out here. Atlanta last week gives you another nice game where, hey, you say, hey, we won the game. Oh, my God, we didn't win the game. One of those, right?
Almost had it. Of course, they found a way to lose, but at least we're, keeping the entertainment out there.
Yeah, hey, that entertainment is what it's all about, and only Atlanta seems to do this. So I guess when Atlanta eventually wins something, which I guess they have to theoretically or I guess mathematically over the next 100 years, somebody down in Atlanta actually has to win a championship, whether it be the Dogs out in Georgia or if it's just the Atlanta Braves. I don't know. The Atlanta Hawks, I mean, maybe not. Maybe one in the next 100 years, those Atlanta teams could get it. But by the way, tonight, You got a good shot at victory tonight, Kelsey. Opened up at 3, down to 1.5. You should have won last week. You won the week before. Is this the week that the Falcons turn it all around? Are we looking at a side in this game, a total? What's on Kelsey's mind for her Atlanta Falcons?
I am looking at the under here.
For what now? Why are we looking at the under specifically here with that Atlanta defense? Give me the nuts and bolts on this.
Okay, well, Atlanta's defense has been looking a lot better past 3 weeks. They've only allowed 23 points. McCaffrey isn't playing, so they don't have to worry about that. And the Falcons have won on the road 3 out of the 4. Not on the road. On the road to Carolina, yes. 3 out of the 4 last 4 meetings. Yes, sorry. Yep. But the under here is at 51, so I think that's a little too high. Yeah, so we're going with the under. I like Carolina. I like Falcons. I can't really pick here. I'm wearing a Panthers jersey.
Hold on.
What is going on here?
This is treason in this area. If I come on in a Cowboys jersey, my wife, my child, and my next door neighbors will yank me off of the. This is treasonous right here. It's treasonous.
No, it's like a superstition thing. Like I do love Carolina. I mean, I lived in Raleigh for a year, but shut up, Donnie.
Kyle, let's talk about this right now. I mean, do we have treason going on the sportsbookreview.com airwaves right now?
We have absolute treason. If I was in a Seattle Seahawks jersey, my friend would walk through the door. We're going to go golfing right after this video. He would come through and beat me with my own driver if I had a Russell Wilson jersey on right now.
I mean, the dogs will be barking in the background repeatedly for this show, right?
I will cut her some slack because her dog is named after Christian McCaffrey. So. And he is a sweet boy.
Even more treason right here.
He plays the harmonica. That's like the only thing. Okay. Let's keep moving. No. Well, are we going to talk prop bets now or later?
No, we're going to talk prop bets a little bit later, but I do like the transition there to keep it moving. I hear you on that. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about those Titans last week. You know, hey, coming all the way back from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to take it to overtime and Gostkowski with another missed kick. So now we're going to take on an easier foe. Last week you go up against arguably the top-rated defense. Now you go up against arguably the worst defense. Which way are we going here in this tilt between the Titans and the Cincinnati Bengals?
I mean, you got to like the Titans here. Yeah, COVID-19 has had nothing on these guys. So,
sure.
Yep.
And then Ryan Tannehill, he's a future MVP quarterback. I like him a lot. Joe Burrow, he's a great rookie. He doesn't have the help he deserves. He's going to keep Cincy close, but Titans win. I have them at 5.5.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to win by a touchdown. But I do, you know what? I could probably transition that because I like the fact that you had COVID. I'm going to call the Bengals defense COVID-19 for the rest of the year because my bank account loves that defense for the Cincinnati Bengals. And they do seem to be getting worse and worse as it moves forward. So I can't fault you for that. They will win this game, the Titans. We'll see if they can win that game by a touchdown or more. Now we're talking little Tua Tagovailoa. We're talking about the Rams had an easy victory over the Chicago Bears at home. Now they fly to Miami. Not a lot of fans in the stands, but they will be energized for this one for Tua. Are we looking for a Tua upset? Are we going to take Jared Goff? Is there going to be some pace in this game? What are we looking forward to in this game between the Dolphins and the Rams?
Don't you hate the over-under, so you probably hate all my picks this week, but I'm taking the under 6.5 here. Kyle, I'm glad we're finally on the same page with something. Well, I don't know. Actually, I trust Donnie more, I think. But
well, you should. 100%. Wow. Come on. Don't be ridiculous here.
Still, I'm on too much caffeine. I'm sorry. But anyway, the Rams are coming off a short rest. Tua is starting, so we don't know what we're going to get, which is a crazy time for him to be starting since the Rams defense is incredible. Well, for the most part, incredible. Dolphins, I know I talked trash on them last week, but I go back and look, and I'm like, okay, wow, they're actually good. They don't have as many weapons on defense, but I think this is going to be a battle, especially a lot of hype in Miami with Tua. Keep the score low, under 46.5.
Let's keep going. Well, how about in Cleveland? Let's take a look at this game between the Raiders, because we do know that they have two really good offensive lines, two quarterbacks that can be boom or bust. This was nice for a total. You have some weapons at wide receiver. The Raiders don't have the greatest defense, but neither does the Cleveland Browns, but also maybe given a hobbled Myles Garrett in this game. Taking a look at this game between the Browns and the Raiders, what are we looking at here, Kelsey?
At first, I was looking at the over, but now the weather is going to be rainy and cold, so I'm taking the Browns. OBJ is not in, but Baker Mayfield showed he can connect with Higgins and Peoples-Jones. Is that it? Peoples-Jones?
Yep, he's a Peoples man.
The man of the people, that's me too.
Yep.
The Raiders have allowed, I don't know what they're ranked at, but they've allowed tons of points. I love the over, but again, the weather, so I'm going to go with the Browns on this one, even though I don't really like this game anymore.
Yeah, that weather makes it tough.
So who's the pick on this game? What are we going with?
She's going with Cleveland.
Cleveland.
So we're believing in Cleveland. Okay, I like this. It's not a bad play, because I think Baker Mayfield will be able to come to play. We'll see if that weather conditions add into this game. And let's go out west into Kyle's neck of the woods. Oh. Seattle playing. The 49ers are playing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle. It wasn't too long ago where whenever the 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks play, it was must-see TV, two absolutely rocking and rolling defenses, two good offenses getting after it. You're still going to get some of that this week, because I think we get a good game. Seattle favored anywhere between 2.5 and 3 in that range. What are we looking at in this battle of the NFC West here, Kelsey?
Well, Niners, I'm sorry, Kyle. Jimmy G on the road is unstable. Debo's out. Chris Carson's back for the Hawks. Russell Wilson, what we saw last week, is not how he usually plays. He usually doesn't give turnovers to people as easy as McDonald's. So I'm sticking with Seattle here. And, Seattle, Russell, -3.
All right, how about some Monday Night Football action? Tampa Bay and Tom Brady coming to the Big Apple, and really, we don't really know what we're going to expect or who we're even going to get in the lineup specifically for the New York Football Giants offensive line. Are we going Tampa Bay? Did you love what you see with Daniel Jones versus the Eagles last week? How are we going in this game?
Daniel Jones is king of turnovers.
He is.
Torch the Raiders. I don't know what they're going to do to the Giants. I don't like this Monday night game. I don't think it's going to be fun to watch. I'm taking the Bucs -10. I don't know how you can't do that. So
Kyle, how can't you do this, Kyle?
You got a good number at -10. I'm just saying there's a little nerves here. I think Tampa Bay beats them by 2 touchdowns, but I will say watch out for the weapons available to Tom Brady. But then you look at the other side. Is there a team? I mean, maybe the Colts that Tom Brady hates more than the Giants. I saw that in the chat too, and it's a great point. I do think he puts a beating on him, but watch out. Mike Evans may not be the great DFS play that night that everyone thinks he is with that James Bradbury shadow coverage. I saw a question in the chat about a GPP, Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore. I like them both against that Falcons secondary. The Falcons secondary can't stop anyone in my DraftKings lineup. I have them both. If you're looking for some value, I do like Russell Gage for some value against that cover 3 defense in Carolina. And Brian Hill, the backup running back for Atlanta at 2,200 on DraftKings, could be one of those sneaky tournament plays. If he gets in the end zone, can set you over the top in that football game.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Thursday Night Football coming in here. We have the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. We also have a little bit of treason on the air right now, so a lot of interesting things to line up. But I'm going to go ahead and give some prop bets here as well as a side bet. Again, I don't like the full game itself, but I do like the fact that I believe Atlanta can stick around in this football game. And the same concept I started the show with Kyle and Kelsey, I'm going to say it again. Atlanta can't close, but they can certainly open the door and get through. I think Atlanta has a good possibility to be up at the half. I think there's a good possibility with the rain that you might have a tie game at the half. Give me the +1 in the first half for the Atlanta Falcons. 3 prop bets that I'm digging on tonight, which had a very good Monday Night Football picking sides with the Rams full game and the Rams second half, but a poor night with props. So I'm looking to get back in tonight. I'm going to go Hayden Hurst over 32.5. Whenever you have rain in the forecast, the quarterback's best friend is right over the middle, 5 yards away. Give me a couple catches. Very easily can get that number of over 32.5. Also going to go with Julio Jones catch yards, 23.5 over. Just needs 1 catch to go over 23.5 yards, and that ticket should cash in. Matt Ryan, king of the balloon ball. Just give me 1 of those to Julio tonight. My third prop bet, I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers wager here. Mike Davis out of the backfield. I'm going to go both rushing and receiving over 104 yards. There's no reason to believe he can't get 80 yards on the ground tonight in the rain and also catch a lot of those targeted dump-off passes, maybe 4 to 5 catches, enough to push them over the total. So I'm going to go total yards for Mike Davis tonight, over 104 yards. Kyle, we'll start with you first. What are you liking tonight?
Well, I got to say, back in high school, I used to be king of the balloon ball too, but that was a Saturday night and a totally different reason. But, I digress. No, when you look at that cover 3 defense that the Falcons run on or that the Panthers rather run on 76% of their defensive coverage routes, I think you see a lot of dinking and dunking tonight. So I went ahead and parlayed Todd Gurley over 2.5 catches. He's been targeted 12 times over the past 2 weeks. They're starting to get him more involved in the passing game. And I went ahead and doubled that down, over 2.5 catches, over 17.5 receiving yards for Todd Gurley. I like that pick. I actually do think I like the Julio Jones over 5.5 catches. If he's going to be fully healthy, they will use him underneath. So I like that play as well. Those are my 3 favorite prop bets for tonight.
And by the way, Kyle, usually at Eagles games, the balloons were $5 in the parking lot after the game. That when the cops came around, everybody ran away, and I believe the cops had a couple free balloons as well. Now let's get to this game tonight here, Thursday Night Football. What are we doing, Kelsey? Is it the Atlanta Falcons? Is it Carolina? I mean, I'm kind of mixed up here on this game.
All right. I'm wearing this jersey because I want the Falcons to win. But if they lose, I'll be fine at the bar, so it doesn't matter.
There you go. You're jinxing them. I like the jinx powers. I like to pick against my 49ers like I did today. And, hey, either way, I'll bet on Seattle. If my team loses, then I win money. And if my team wins, then I'm happy and I can turn on SportsCenter that night. So, it's a win-win all the way around.
No, it works out. By the way, if that happens, you're going to have to wear this Christian McCaffrey jersey the rest of the year here on the show if it works out in your favor, Kelsey.
Sure.
It's not a bad thing, Donnie. It's okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Maybe next week.
Pick jersey, so I don't.
Yep. Gonna have to check out the Twitter page. Gonna have to wear that Christian McCaffrey, whether you're hiking, whether you're at games. We're gonna have to see this Christian McCaffrey jersey around.
Wash it. Yum.
Yeah, don't wash it. Not if they win. If Atlanta wins, you can't wash
it if it goes your way. Sure thing.
Absolutely not. Cannot do that.
Week 8 NFL action in the books for us today. Look at that. An hour and 15 minutes. We went bonus extra time. 350 people watching just about for the entirety of the show. This is one of the more watched shows that we do have on the networks. We appreciate all the feedback we get, both good and bad, in the chat box. It doesn't matter. As long as you're in the chat box, that's all we care about. And as we like to say, 72,400 people have hit the subscribe button right here on our SBR networks, right here on YouTube. If that button you're looking at right now is still red, you're not doing your job. Flip it to gray, turn on the notification bell. Every time Kelsey, Kyle, and myself go live and we want to talk some NFL football, it'll get delivered directly to your inbox. Our next show will be Sunday for NFL action, 12 p.m. noon, to get you ready for those 1 o'clock games and set up that card for Week 8 NFL action. I'm Donnie Seymour. She's Kelsey Kramer. He's Kyle Purviance. And we are SportsBookReview.com. And this was your NFL show, Week 8 Thursday. Good luck, guys.